days, I'm on fire.
How's it going, guys? This is my deck review for Death. Mordant Burninator. This is my favorite death deck to play, probably the only death deck I really play. I have thrown some bore you to death control decks that just work to deck you, and they can take 30-40 minutes to play a game. Not my style. I'm more of an aggro player. Plus, sometimes you can spend 40 minutes stopping your opponent and they'd still just eke through, and it's no fun. It's not fun. It is a style of play. Some people like it, but it is not for me. So this is super aggro Abhorrent Ghoul King. You may have seen John Tata playing. He's playing it in the competitive edge event. He put a few more control oriented cards in there. He's got some Arcane bolts in there. I'm not a fan of Arcane Bolt. I feel like it's the craw worm of this game. It looks big and bad, but the cost is too high. 3 turns is too long to wait for 7 damage. If your opponent's desperate, they can dig. They got 2 turns to dig for removal. Not a fan. You can use Deathly Resolve, but I think I've talked about it in some other videos. I'm not a fan of cards that rotate. I'm a fan of Heroic Acts that rotate units and cards and spells. Not a fan of cards that do it. I think it's just too expensive to spend a card to do it. So a 2-card combo to do 7 damage, that's only 3.5 damage per card. I'd rather play 2 units that can do 5 damage each. That's my theory. I like the order spells. I think if you watch the C Prime deck, I like the order spells that do damage the turn they come into play. No cost in time. I think anything that a card does on the turn it comes into play is 0 time cost. It took no time to do it. Every corner past that is time as a resource. You're spending turns to get to those. That's a resource. So Arcane Bolt's just bad. That's my rant on Arcane Bolt. I think John and I rib each other back and forth on it quite a bit. All right. So this deck, there are variants out there that are double Ghoul King, where they put 2 Ghoul Kings on either side, and then they put a Mordant in the middle to pump the damage. It's good. It feels a little more like a glass cannon. It can hit hard, but it can also be prevented pretty hard, especially by order. Any damage prevention in that lane, putting all your eggs in one basket. My red deck wins list is a little bit guilty of it. It's its strength and its weakness. Concentrating on one lane. The red deck wins does it with units in one lane. The double Ghoul King does it with abilities in the one lane. This one I feel is a little more resilient. It's a little more mid-range. It's very aggro, but it is a little more mid-range, and it completes quests. The double Ghoul King variant doesn't really complete quests. It tries to burn you out with the cards, and I think blessings win games. This deck will complete at least 2 blessings in a game because of the Haunters, who are super easy. I think every deck needs a champ that can spin blessings. Destruction has Ripper and Savage Boar Boss. The C Prime Zoo deck, it has the Lokian Princes. Stormcast, I need to play some more Stormcast decks to figure them out. I'm not sure who they have, but this one has the Haunters. So anyway, this guy is going to sit in the middle, and he's going to have 2 Mordants on either side. This gives you diversity. It's only going to give +1 to their abilities, but I want to utilize the abilities. The 2 death abilities that deal damage, 1 will rotate. So I want since if I'm focused on one lane, I'm not really using the second ability on that card. I'm just playing it for 5 damage. I'd rather play it for 4 damage in a lane and have a choice of, if I can rotate a clunky thing, great. If I can rotate something backwards, say the Juggernaut that has blank 6, I think I'd do that in this series. You'll see in the gameplay videos where he rotates forward. I go ahead and play it by myself another turn, just hold it off until I can get removal, or if I'm not scared of the 6 damage, I'm walking down that lane for an extra turn. And the Frightful Touch, not Frightful Touch, but the Frightful Strike, that makes them discard a card on a lower cost. So the Mordants on either side cost 4. I'm trying to line one of those up with somebody that costs less to get that discard. The discard is big in this deck. I will play it outside in the far lane from a Mordant Ghoul King just for 3 damage. If it's going to make them discard a card, I think it's just better. Enough babbling on. I should talk about those cards when I get to them. But let's go to the next card. So, Crypt Haunter Couriers. These get Crypt Haunter. We'll just call them Haunters. So, these guys are your speed questers. There are 6 units that can heal, and if left undone, the Mordant Heal Deal guy can spin 3 corners on his own. So if you can spin 3 corners with 1 card, that's great. Then you only need 1 more. So you can spin this guy with just 2 cards. The Feasting Fartgeists, you can deploy them, they'll heal, and the next turn they heal again. They'll complete 2 corners, and then you just need a damage and then a Mordant. So 3 cards. These are your speed questers. You're going to complete quests for both of these guys in most games. Unless if you flip over the cloak on one of them, you can usually end it with just the cloak. But most games you're going to flip both blessings. And if you can flip more blessings than your opponent, you're going to win. That's what these guys are for. And I always place them in the outside lanes. So the lane next to the Ghoul King, this will be your other burn guy. He's going to sit next to him. Just to get the extra ability to gain a health off. I'm only playing the 3 spells, but the extra health is fine. Mainly the reason that I play this guy next to the Ghoul King is to get a variance on the corner questing. So the 2 guys on the outside, those guys are always going to quest. This guy will quest fast in the right situation. The removal corner is the hardest, but once he hits that removal corner, it will go super fast because it's just damage in a unit. So I don't put the 2 Haunters on either side of the Ghoul King because they're going to quest no matter what. I put him next to this guy so that I can get some action lane because I want to play the damage spells through him. I'll use the damage abilities to get the first corner. And then if I can get the removal on the second corner, it's even better. He'll quest almost as fast as the Haunters. Some games he'll never quest, and some games he'll quest just as fast, if not faster. So I just like the variety. I like the variety next to the Ghoul Kings for get her done, get the blessings going. All right. Speaking of blessings, Carrion Feast. This one, it costs. Yes, it's a heroic act, and yes, it costs an action for 3 turns to get it to spin. But deal and heal is very swingy. This is very tempo oriented. I want quests, I want blessings that deal damage. This will deal 3, deal 2. It's going to deal 7 damage, but also healing 7 damage can steal tempo. It can steal games. Games that you shouldn't be able to win, that you're just down on this one over 3 turns, it's worth the heroic acts to me. Watch the gameplay videos. You're going to see where it goes out. John is a lover of the orb. But I usually kill most people with this deck before ever needing to survive for the orb. This is one of those things. I think the orb can heal you 4 plus whatever it prevents. This one is just always going to heal 7. It costs 3 actions, but I think it's worth it. Watch the gameplay videos and let me know what you think, and play it yourself and let me know if you think it's worth it. I think it totally is. You don't have any card drawing, you don't have any extra actions, so sometimes it's worth it to spend the 3 turns to spend an action to do this. Like a deal 3, heal 3 feels like 3 cards. Feels like it's worth, it might as well be like 3 cards. I would play any card that deals 3 and heals 3. I would spend 2 actions. This way, I'm only spending 1 action for it. So if you're playing Wagon Fusion, which I don't play in Orcs, because I don't really play Wizards, then if you can see the value in dealing 2 and healing 3, then you can see the value in this card because you're spending 2 actions, 1 to draw it, 1 to play Wagon Fusion. This one you're just spending 1 action for each event of it. It's like playing 3 better Wagon Fusions for less resources. Actions are a resource. Next up, Supernatural Horror. Gotta play it. I think it is better utilized in an aggro deck because in a control deck, when I'm playing against a control deck, Watch my Gordrak match against the first round death. He pops the Supernatural Horror, just delays the inevitable. I spend the 3 turns just drawing cards, and then I just dump it and kill him afterwards because he's not taking the opportunity to hit me back. Whereas this deck, as soon as this pops, it's really rough because it's aggressive. For those 3 turns that it's shutting down my opponent, I'm going to be dealing damage for those. I usually can end the game either on the last corner of this or the turn after the last corner because I'm spending those 3 turns dealing damage while they're just spending turns drawing cards. I think it's more of an aggro card than a control. I think so. My favorite blessing in the deck, Cloak of Mists and Shadows. So you got your Haunters on either corner. They're going to be the ones that pop the blessings most often. No matter which one gets it, even if it's the one farther away from the Ghoul King, you get the free heroic act to move him over, get him into the King's lane. He pumps all of your abilities by 2. The Ghoul King pumps them by another one, so all your abilities get +3. This one ends games quickly. It's passive, so it lasts for the whole game. Here's my rule. If you can plop a blessing, doesn't mean you have to. Play for them. I will draw more cards and I will hold actions before popping blessings to see if this pops up. That way I can start jamming burn to the face right away. But if you have to pop it and then you have to spend a couple turns drawing, it doesn't matter because it's passive, because it's not on any clock. It's not going away. And the last quest, the last blessing, is Turmoil of Souls, Fire Blast. If you watch my videos, you know I love Fire Blast to the face for 4. This also has the added ability of shuffling 2 cards from their hand into their deck. So this deck actually has quite a bit of discard. I know Danny Hype has been playing this deck quite a bit. He's called it a discard deck a couple times because the burn spells are discard, the Frightful Touch is discard, and this card is discard. It does feel like a discard deck. It's devastating if they got any cards in hand. I will hold out popping blessings on the chance that it's this to when they have 1 or 2 cards in hand, just if I can. If you have the luxury of waiting to pop them, wait. If you can make it more advantageous to pop it, make it more advantageous. Moving on to the actions. Oh, where'd you go? Sorry. Come back. Let's see. Let's make sure that was... Okay. First of the units. Feasting Fartgeist. This guy is just in there to complete the Haunter's corners. If you feel it's safe, if they ever put a spell across from a Haunter, you can just pop this guy. He'll complete the unit corner, and they can't remove him because they can't remove over a spell to get the second corner. Sometimes I will hold off and use another unit to complete the unit, and then if they got removal, then they remove it. He can do the heal corner on the first turn. Watching the gameplay, see how I play him. I try not to just throw these and the heal ghoul Mordants out willy-nilly, letting them get removed, because I actively work to keep my opponent from completing their objectives. I play like my opponent is doing it too. So play him a little more cagily than you would just throwing him out. Usually if I got this and a Mordant healer, I'll throw them both out because they can't remove them both. I'll go ahead and just Sophie's choice, man. Which one do you want to take? Take that one. That's fine, because the one that you leave is going to complete 2 corners, and I've completed 1 corner on that one. So if you have the luxury of playing them both at the same time, you can. Watch the gameplay videos, see how I kind of bait people into doing what I want them to do. Next up, I think I'll go into... Nope, I don't want to recycle that card. This is the Freakish Cryptor. He's the other objective completer for the Haunters. He'll complete the objective of deploying a unit for the first corner, and then next turn he'll deal 1, heal 1. He'll complete the heal, and if they let him go for the next 2 turns, he'll complete the damage corner on the Haunter. So I like to bait out removal before throwing this guy out there, because I will spend 4 turns to complete 3 corners on the Haunters, completing 3 corners with 1 card is good advantage. Try to work to get advantage as much as you can. Let's get into the damage dealers. Alright. Mordant, Fearsome Crypt Flayer. This guy is pretty good. He's kind of like the, what is that guy? Trampling Gore Grunta. Does X 2 and 2, so he's a beater, but he'll also make the unit dormant. Doesn't do spells like the trampling. Of course, orcs have the better version, because why not? Like, I don't know how orcs can stop spells, but death doesn't. Anyway, enough of that. This guy is just utility. He'll shut down and deal damage for a while to hold them off. I like using it against their damage prevention guys if I can. He's also there to complete the 4th corners on the Haunters. I play a lot of Mordants in my deck. I play more than John. Like I said, I want to complete at least 2 blessings a game, and these guys help do it. All the Mordants do. And then I think we go into the Ravenous Crypt Ghoul. This guy is my Craw Worm. So he's going to deal 6 damage. I just think he's better than Arcane Bolt because I can put him in any lane. He completes unit objectives. He'll hang out for 4 turns. There are bigger threats usually, people feel like. If they use a removal on this guy, that's fine because it saves my healing guys that I want to use objectives on. If they don't, he's going to do 6. He's going to complete the 4th corner most of the time, so after your Haunters are on their last corner, this guy will complete it, and then he'll just hang out, and he'll just slowly lumber along and do 1, 2, 3 damage. Yeah, I'm not going to play Arcane Bolt, but I'll play this guy, because he does more in this deck. What are you doing to me, Adobe? That is not cool. Yes. Oh my gosh. Adobe, I'm busy. I'm making a video. Okay. Learning how to YouTube. Learn to YouTube, noob. Murderous Fartgeist. This guy is just in there for the beats. The beats. He's just 2-2-1. I noticed John was playing him in his list. I played John's list a couple times, and I'm like, why is this guy in there? He doesn't complete any Mordant corners. I'm like, just swap in a Mordant for this guy. And then as I thought about it, since I'm playing all the Mordants anyway, and I'm not playing all the little goofy control spells, I'm like, you know what? This guy actually is just a beater. He's going to do 5 damage. He's kind of like the Gore Choppa Brutes in Orcs, but he's a little more front-loaded. Instead of 1-1-3, he's doing 2-2-1. So I think he's better than the Gore Grunta Brutes. He'll complete unit objectives, and I'll use this guy to bait out removal. He hits so hard and so early that people will remove him, and I'll use him to bait out that removal to save my healing guys to get those corner objectives on the Haunters done. Watch the gameplay videos, just see how effective he is. I think we're going to get to the Devour, the ever-present removal. Talked about this in the other videos. Not a fan that all the factions have a generic removal. I guess it's fine for a first set. Gets people playing. Maybe it needed to be done. I think it should be a little more flavorful. Split that up, make it easy for some factions to remove units, make it harder for others, make it easy to remove or prevent abilities. Split up the pie, take the flavor pie. You know, learn from 25 years of designing Magic how to divide up the flavors and abilities between different factions, kind of a thing. Anyway, enough of that rant. Shuffle 1 unit from your pile into discard deck. Flavorful, it's fine. It's just the generic removal. It's there. You got to play it. 3 spots in my deck that are predetermined for me, which is fine, I guess. Cursed Strike. So as I said, this card is great. I like the diversity instead of the Ghoul King build, where if I happen to get lucky and they put something in the lane that I can use its second ability with, that's fine. I like the diversity of having the choice of rotating something. As much as I love Razor Shell Leviathan, I love spinning Razor Shell Leviathan to his damage corners on my turn so that they can't use him. I think it's hilarious. This guy loves clunky corner cards because he'll deal the damage, spin them, Aetherwing Scout, Flesh Hounds. This card don't care. Clunky corners don't do anything on your turn, so hit it with this. Do it every time. I will play it in non-buffed lanes if I need to, if it's advantageous to do so, but usually this gets played in the buffed lanes from the Ghoul King. Next up is Frightful Strike. Probably my favorite burn card in the whole set. Making my opponent discard a card, shuffle it back in their deck, but it's basically a discard, is effective. I will play this outside of the buff lanes 100% if it's going to make them discard a card, if it's hitting a cheaper champion. During champion placement, I'll put the Haunters in the sides, and then that leaves my middle two, so I can decide where the Ghoul King is to line up one of the Mordants on their cheaper champion so that it's always in this lane. If they're smart, they'll deploy to that lane. If it forces them out of the game to deploy in that lane, that's fine. If they don't, this card's going to make them discard a card. One of my favorite cards. Definitely one of the best rares in Death. Let me get back. Okay. Opportunity Strike. Basically, it's just always going to be 3 damage in a buffed lane. If it can do 5, amazing. It'll do 6 with the Ghoul King. It's there to complete corners and deal damage to the face. Take the opportunities where you can take them. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Touch of Love. Frightful Touch. This is the only spell I'm playing in the deck, and I'm only playing 3. This is also, I use it to bait out removal. I use it to force them to play a unit in a lane that they might not want to play in. If they don't, it's going to make them discard 2 cards. It's just, I usually don't like to play cards that players can play around, but I'll take it with this one because the 4 damage is a Fire Blast to the face, and if it forces them off their game, I'm all for it. If they don't play a unit or they don't remove it, then it's devastating. I don't mind when they remove this because it's removal that they're not using on my Haunters lane to remove stuff. So again, I use it as bait for removal to get my blessings completed in the corners on the Haunters. And I think that's it for this deck. Check out the series. I will post gameplay videos following this one. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what changes you would make, whatever. Also, be sure to check out my playmats. I made them myself. Check out Queen City Gaming. They are amazing for singles and deck boxes, master sets. And check out the deck list. I'll put it in the description. Thanks for watching, guys.